The hardest thing about a divorce isn't the loss of a marriage. It's watching your child wonder if love was ever real. Nathan Cole carried that thought with him as he sat folded into a small plastic chair inside Willow Creek Elementary, his broad frame looking out of place among the finger paintings and paper stars taped to the walls. Across from him, the teacher chose her words with care. "Emma is doing her best," she said. "She smiles, she helps everyone, but lately she keeps drawing houses with one window left dark." Nathan lowered his eyes. His wedding ring was gone now. Only a pale, quiet line remained where it used to sit. "Daddy," Emma said softly from the chair beside him. He turned to her at once. "Yes, sweetheart." She stared down at her sneakers, the pink laces tied crookedly. "People can break promises." The room went still, not an ordinary quiet, but the kind that lives between heartbeats. Nathan managed a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Sometimes people do break promises," he said gently. "But good people keep trying anyway." Emma nodded slowly, accepting the answer, because children often make peace with pain long before adults do. "And hey, before we start, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your country in the comments." Today's story is about jealousy, hidden pain, and a secret buried for years until it couldn't stay buried anymore. There's a twist coming you won't see coming, so get comfortable. Outside, the late October wind pushed golden leaves across the parking lot. Nathan opened the door of his aging silver truck and lifted Emma inside, buckled her in, tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, and handed her the peanut butter crackers he kept in the glove box. "Dinner of champions?" she asked with a grin. "Temporary dinner of champions," he corrected. "Real dinner happens after Daddy survives work." Her giggle saved him more times than she would ever know. 37 minutes later, Nathan walked into Reyes Urban Development carrying his lunch cooler, a worn leather notebook, and the invisible weight of raising a child alone. The lobby gleamed with marble floors and glass walls that reflected success from every angle. Nobody noticed the tired-eyed single father crossing toward the service elevator. He preferred it that way. Quiet had become his armor. In the break room, he opened his lunch. Turkey sandwich, apple slices, same as most days. He checked his phone, one photo from Emma, two stick figures holding hands beneath a crooked sun, captioned, "Me and Daddy forever." He swallowed hard. Then footsteps entered behind him, slow and confident. Victoria Reyes stood in the doorway in a charcoal coat, autumn light catching her chestnut hair. CEO, 35, brilliant, untouchable. She'd come for coffee. Instead, she paused, her eyes drifting from the photo on his phone to his bare left hand. Nathan locked the screen quietly. Neither of them said anything. Coffee steamed between them, and for reasons neither understood yet, the silence stayed. The next morning arrived wrapped in pale light and the smell of cinnamon oatmeal. Emma sat at the table in mismatched socks, coloring, while Nathan flipped pancakes shaped badly enough to be called abstract art. "Is that supposed to be a bear?" she asked. "That is clearly a pancake with emotional depth," he said. "It looks like a potato." "A heroic potato," he corrected, and she laughed harder, and for a brief moment the heaviness inside the house stepped outside and waited on the porch. After breakfast, he ran through the ritual. Lunch, homework folder, emergency dinosaur sticker, always, and watched her disappear into the school entrance before driving to work. Reyes Urban Development looked different in early morning light, gold along the edges of the glass tower, beautiful from a distance and exhausting from inside. Nathan was not an executive anymore. Once he'd sketched entire neighborhoods and dreamed in measurements and light angles. Now he handled facility support and maintenance coordination, anything quiet enough to keep life steady. Quiet paid the bills. Quiet kept Emma safe. In the lounge, co-workers talked about ski trips and vacation homes while Nathan ate the same sandwich as always. "You always eat the same thing?" Victoria asked, appearing at the coffee machine with no assistant, no entourage. Efficient, he said. She noticed the small napkin folded beside his lunch, marked in crayon. "Good luck, Daddy," with a crooked sun beneath it. She studied it longer than she needed to. "Your daughter?" she asked quietly. "Emma," he said, his voice softening at her name. 8 years old. Victoria nodded. "She draws sons." "She thinks every lunch needs one," Nathan said. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable, just careful. As she turned to leave, she stopped. "Mr. Cole, keep the napkin." He frowned slightly. "I wasn't planning to throw it away." Her eyes lowered. "Good," she said softly. "Some things deserve to stay." She carried that little drawing with her the rest of the morning, for reasons she couldn't explain. Rain arrived the next afternoon, steady enough to streak silver lines down the windows. The school called. After-school activities were canceled because of weather, and the buses were running late. Nathan's stomach tightened before he even answered. He closed his files and drove straight there. The moment Emma saw him, she lit up. "Daddy," and ran into his arms. "Sorry, I'm late." "You came," she whispered, as if that alone was everything. "It always would," he said. On the drive home, she asked if he had to go back to work, and when he said just for a little while, she asked to come along, promising not to become the new CEO in his absence. He settled her in a conference room with coloring books, crackers, and the blanket he kept in his truck for emergencies, and told her 15 minutes, maybe 20. 40 minutes later, the building had gone too quiet. The conference room was empty. His heart lurched. He checked the hallway, the lounge, the lobby, then noticed light beneath the executive office door. Inside, Emma was asleep on the sofa, curled beneath a folded cardigan, and Victoria sat quietly beside her, not working, just present, a closed file in her lap. She was drawing. Then she fell asleep, Victoria said. On the table lay a colored drawing, 3 stick figures beneath a crooked sun, one tall, one small, one a woman with long brown hair. Neither of them spoke. Victoria asked, in a voice quieter than the rain, whether offices ever get lonely at night. "What did you tell her?" Nathan asked. "I told her sometimes they do." Emma stirred and murmured in her sleep. "Miss Sunshine came." Victoria lowered her eyes at once, and somewhere in a room built for contracts and strategy, something gentle took its first breath. The week that followed moved quietly, the way healing often does when nobody is watching. Mornings of pancakes and school drop-offs, evenings of homework and folded laundry and bills stacked carefully under the refrigerator light. Nathan never complained. He'd learned that dignity sometimes looked like reheated soup and 10 extra minutes spent packing tomorrow's lunch. At the office, small, unexplained kindnesses began appearing for Emma. A new box of crayons in her emergency drawer, extra fruit cups in the fridge, a children's blanket folded neatly where she'd napped. No note, no name. Nathan assumed it was the office manager and thanked her twice. She looked confused both times. On the 42nd floor, Victoria stood at her window watching rain gather on the glass, Emma's drawing sitting on her desk, something she should have thrown away days ago. Miss Sunshine had become the woman with brown hair. She traced the corner of the page, then pulled her hand back quickly, as if kindness could turn dangerous if held too long. She crossed to a locked cabinet she hadn't opened in years and entered the code. Inside hung a wedding dress sealed in plastic, a dress that never reached its wedding. Years earlier, the man she'd trusted had walked away 3 weeks before the ceremony. No scandal, no shouting, just absence. Since then, she'd built an empire and let the world call her powerful instead of lonely, because powerful women weren't supposed to look lonely. She closed the cabinet just as a knock came. Nathan stepped in holding a project folder and stopped at the sight of her near the open cabinet. She moved to block it. Too late. He'd already seen the white fabric. "I can come back," he said. "It's fine," she said, too quickly. He set the folder down. Maintenance schedule for the North Wing. Then, quietly, Emma thinks brave people are the ones who smile when they're sad. And what do you think? Victoria asked. I think brave people are the ones who keep loving after disappointment. The city lights flickered on outside. For the first time in years, she wanted to ask someone to stay. She didn't. As he turned to leave, she asked, unplanned, "How do you keep going?" "Because my daughter still believes tomorrow can be good," he said. Silence followed, gentle and honest, and somewhere deep inside a heart that had spent years sealed shut, a crack let in the light. Friday brought one of those nights that don't announce their importance. Cold coffee, unfinished reports, a sky the color of wet stone. The company was preparing to present its largest community project in 3 years, with investors arriving Monday, and every design file lived on the central server. At 6:12, the alarm started. The lights flickered. Screens froze. "The project files are gone," someone said, and panic spread faster than footsteps. By evening, the building had emptied out, rain tapping the windows, emergency lights casting pale gold across the halls. Victoria remained alone in the conference room, staring at a dead monitor, when Nathan appeared with a toolbox. "You're still here?" she asked. "So are you," he said. "I checked the lower systems. The outage hit the backup transfer unit. IT checked the software. I checked the building." He disappeared into the service corridor, and after an hour, Victoria found herself following the glow of his work light to the maintenance level, where he sat cross-legged beside an open panel, wiring diagrams spread across the floor. "Loose relay connection," he said. "Backup never switched over." "You know systems engineering," she said. "Before life changed, I designed infrastructure models," he admitted, and when she asked why, he said simply, "I was a lot of things." At 9:21, the lights steadied, the files returned, and faint cheers echoed through the empty halls upstairs. "You saved the project," Victoria said. "No, I fixed a relay," he said, closing his toolbox. "Why do you always make yourself smaller?" she asked. The question landed deeper than she meant it to. "Because after enough loss," he said quietly, "small feels safer." Watching him kneel there under fluorescent light, Victoria saw something different. Not the quiet maintenance man with the lunchbox, but someone carrying an entire world with steady hands. She realized, watching him walk toward the stairs, that she was no longer just curious about him. Her heart had already started moving before she'd given it permission. Monday arrived with clear, cold sunlight, investors filling the building, success restored, and gossip traveling in its wake. 2 analysts whispered behind Nathan in the hallway. The CEO had stayed until midnight with the maintenance guy. Apparently, he'd saved the project, or maybe she just liked him. Nathan kept walking. Quiet had taught him how to survive being talked about. Upstairs, Victoria sat through the investor meeting with flawless composure, though her attention drifted once toward the courtyard, where Nathan knelt in the cold tying Emma's scarf before school. She lost her train of thought entirely. That afternoon, Emma came back to the office for an hour and settled into the lounge with crayons while Nathan ran a quick inspection. Victoria walked in for coffee and found Emma surrounded by drawings. "Miss Sunshine," the girl announced. Victoria sat beside her. Emma held up a new picture. 3 stick figures again, the woman standing closer now, the sun bigger. "Who are they?" Victoria asked. "Daddy, me, and you." "Why me?" Emma shrugged, honest the way children are. "Because Daddy smiles different when you're around." When Nathan returned and found them together, Emma announced they were fixing his happiness. "That's not a job," he said. "Maybe it should be," Victoria answered softly. A dropped page landed near her shoes. On the back, in a child's uneven letters, "Families can start again." Their hands brushed retrieving it. Nothing dramatic, just small human warmth. Somewhere behind the glass and the polished floors, Rumors kept moving through the building, but for the first time, neither of them seemed to hear them. Saturday brought cold sunshine and a promise Nathan had made all week: pancakes at Maple Street Diner, red booths, old country songs, the kind of place where everyone called you honey. Over hot chocolate, Emma asked if grown-ups get lonely. Sometimes, Nathan said. Even the strong ones, especially the strong ones. She considered that, then said quietly, "Miss Sunshine must be very brave. Her smile feels sad sometimes." Nathan didn't answer right away, because children often see what adults spend years hiding. Across town, Victoria stood in her beautiful, too-quiet apartment, Emma's drawing sitting on the counter. Families can start again. She touched the paper once, then found herself driving with no destination, and somehow arrived at the same diner. Emma lit up. "Miss Sunshine!" And Victoria laughed, bright and unguarded, a sound Nathan had never heard from her before. She sat down, and conversation came easily. School stories, terrible pancake art, dinosaurs needing sweaters in winter. When Emma wandered off to study the pie case, Victoria admitted quietly, "I used to think independence meant not needing anyone. Now I think maybe people aren't meant to carry everything alone." Nathan told her that after the divorce he'd stopped believing life could surprise him in good ways, until Emma kept showing up hopeful anyway. Emma returned with a new napkin drawn in crayon, 3 figures again, captioned, "Everyone deserves a seat at the table." Something invisible settled quietly beside all 3 of them. Monday returned gray and rain-heavy. An email arrived for Nathan, a job offer as Regional Infrastructure Coordinator in Denver, an application he'd submitted quietly months earlier on one hard night, a backup plan in case life refused to move forward. Better salary, housing assistance, a fresh start. Everything practical said yes. Everything human stayed quiet. Upstairs, Victoria learned from HR that his transfer paperwork had arrived, and something in her stepped backward. She found him in the break room before he could hide the screen. "You're leaving," she said. Not a question. "I hadn't decided," he said. She told him Emma had drawn another picture the day before. 3 people again, captioned, "Families can move, but hearts do not always catch up." Neither of them moved. For the first time since the divorce, the safe road no longer felt simple to Nathan. And somewhere inside him, a man who had survived loss realized leaving might hurt more than staying. Rain covered the city by evening, the steady kind that made streetlights glow softer and memories feel closer. Nathan sat alone in the parking garage, the Denver letter on the passenger seat beside Emma's newest drawing. Home is where people stay. He'd spent months teaching himself to need nothing beyond stability, until a woman with tired eyes and quiet grace stepped into the spaces he'd locked away. Footsteps echoed through the garage. Victoria appeared without an umbrella, without an assistant, without any of the armor the world expected her to wear. "I spent years building offices," she said softly, "thinking success would make the silence smaller. It didn't. Then your daughter walked into my office and called me Miss Sunshine, and you walked through hallways fixing problems nobody else saw." Her voice trembled, not with fear but honesty. "You lost a marriage. I lost faith. You learned how to survive. I learned how to hide." She stepped closer, not to touch, just close enough to stop running. Emma shouldn't lose another place that feels like home. Then, barely louder than the rain, "Be my husband." Nathan froze completely. The offer letter slipped from his hand and landed beside his boots. Victoria stood there looking terrified, as if she'd placed her whole heart in the open with nowhere left to retreat. Then small footsteps broke the silence. Emma, wrapped in his brown jacket, holding her emergency dinosaur sticker, smiling the way children do when they recognize hope before anyone else. "Daddy," she said gently. "I think tomorrow came." No one moved. The rain softened. The city lights blurred into gold beyond the garage opening, And Nathan looked at Victoria, still brave, still waiting, still standing there with all her quiet dignity exposed. For the first time since the day his world broke apart, he was not looking at loss. If this story touched something in you, hit that like button. It helps this channel grow. Subscribe if you haven't, because we share stories like this every day. And if someone in your life needs a reminder that kindness and integrity still matter, share this with them. Thank you for staying until the end. I'll see you in the next one.